Hey guys, welcome to the Workplace and Apprenticeship 20 lesson videos. In this first lesson, we're going to be just doing a quick review from our Workplace 10, which was dealing with proportional reasoning. So if you guys remember all the way back to grade 10 when you guys talked about proportional reasoning, a proportion or proportional reasoning really looks at comparing two units. So in this example here, which is example number 4 from your notes, we're going to be looking at creating a proportion. Also within this lesson, I'm going to show you just a quick technique about how I like to go about solving a word problem, because we all know that word problems can sometimes give us some useless information. So I will also introduce this new technique, and if you like it, awesome, use it. If not, well, I tried. So if you guys do have any other techniques that you like to use, make sure to come and talk to me, because I would love to learn what works for you guys. So our first step here to tackling a word problem is to first read it. So Terry took a trip to Mexico. Upon leaving, she decided to convert all of her pesos back into dollars. How many dollars did she receive if she exchanged 42.7 pesos at a rate of $5.30, which is equal to 11.1 pesos? And they want us to round to 2 decimal places here. So step 1, read your word problem, try and figure out what they're actually asking us to do. And typically it's usually in your last sentence or maybe in your second last sentence. But in this question here, let's underline what are they asking us to do. Well, they want to know how many dollars did she receive when she exchanged the 42.7 pesos. So step number 1 is to first read your word problem. Second step is to identify what you're looking for. And that's going to be really important, because in our next step, we're going to go and cross out some sentences that might have some, if I could say, useless information. And when I say useless information, just useless in terms of the actual question that they're asking. They like to give lots of information about what's happening in the situation and why they might be asking that question, but it's not always necessary for solving the problem. So here we've identified what we're looking for. Now we can go back and reread that problem and cross out some of that useless information and underline anything that's really important. So our first sentence here reads, Terry took a trip to Mexico. Well, that sentence right there actually tells us about the situation, about what's going on, but it doesn't actually tell us anything about converting pesos and Canadian dollars. So what I like to do is I like to cross that out. Let's take away all of that useless information. So our next sentence here says, upon leaving, she decided to convert all of her pesos back into dollars. Now, this one here I think is more or less up to you, whether or not you cross this one out or not. I might underline, though, that she's converting pesos back into dollars. That way, maybe if you're a little bit confused later on about the information that you're given, well, at least you know you're going from pesos to dollars, and your answer should have dollars as your units. So our next sentence there says, how many dollars did she receive if she exchanged 42.7 pesos at a rate of $5.30 for 11.1 pesos? So I think that what's really important information there is the question being asked. We also know that she is exchanging 42.7 pesos, and here we're given the rate. We have $5.30 for 11.1 pesos. Now earlier in the video, if you remember, I was talking about proportional reasoning. So with this one here, we're going to be comparing two units, and in this case, the two units are pesos and dollars. And also when we're dealing with proportional reasoning, essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have two fractions that are equal to one another. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of create two fractions and show that they're equal to one another with that equal sign. So our first little bit of information we're given is usually the rate, and that goes in your first fraction. So we know that she has 42.7 pesos. So I'm going to write that down. We have 42.7 pesos, which I'm just going to abbreviate with P, and we don't know how many dollars that is. So I'm just going to leave that as an X because I don't know how much that is. The next bit of information that we're given is the rate of $5.30 is equal to 11.1 pesos. Now, one thing that's really important here is that you have to make sure your units match, or what we call correspond. So if pesos is in the numerator or the top of your first fraction, then your numerator of your second fraction also has to have pesos. So pesos goes on the top, and then the dollar sign goes on the bottom. So looking at that rate, we had 11.1 pesos. So let's fill that in. And then we had $5.30. Now that we've set up our proportion, now what we can do is a technique called cross multiplying. So you draw an arrow going from the top of your first fraction to the bottom of your second fraction, and similar to the bottom of your first fraction to the top of your second fraction. And what those arrows indicate is multiplication, which is why we call it cross multiplying. We're creating that cross here, and then each of those arrows indicate multiplication. So I always start with the top of my first fraction, so we have 42.7 multiplied with 5.30. And I don't like to write the units. The units are more important for just setting up the actual question itself, and then after that they kind of become a little bit like clutter. So once you show that first multiplication, we have to separate it with an equal sign, and then we can do the second multiplication. So x times 11.1. From there, you're going to simplify both your left side and your right side. So we can put this into our calculator. So it's 42.7 times 5.30. And what your calculator should give you is 226.31. And then that's equal to, and we say x times 11.1. The proper way to write that mathematically is 11.1, and then x goes to the right. I'm sorry, I should say 226.31. Then our next step is we want to solve for x. So we need to get rid of this 11.1. And so to get rid of your number that's connected with x, you have to do that opposite operation. And your opposite operation is actually division, because when we don't have any operation symbols between a number and a variable, that indicates multiplication. So what you're going to do is you're going to divide by the number that's connected with x. And make sure this one here is an equal sign. It's an equation. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So divide both sides by 11.1. When you put that into your calculators, you should get that 226.31 divided by 11.1 should give you 20.39. And that's equal to, so 11.1 divided by 11.1 will give you 1. So this is 1x, or we can just write x. So that means that 42.7 pesos will give you $20.39. One last step before we actually finish this problem is that this here is a word problem, which means that we have to answer it with a sentence. This is something that is very important to do, and I am going to require you to do this on your homework and on your assignments and tests, okay? And if you're a little bit unsure of how to write a sentence, I always like to go back to the statement or the question that was being asked. They want to know how many dollars did, this was Terry, how many dollars did Terry receive? Well, she received $20.39 for 42.7 pesos. So we can say Terry received $20.39 for 42.7 pesos. When you have that written down, then you're all good to go and you finish your problem. I guess one last thing is make sure you guys do not forget your units. It's very important because how to know you're not talking about pesos or Canadian dollars, or maybe you're talking about the British pounds. You have to make sure that you specify what you're talking about or what you found. So make sure you always put that dollar sign or whatever units you're working with. Either it has to be in your sentence, or if it's not a word problem, it has to be at the end with your answer, okay? So that's everything for this video, and I hope this helped you guys, and thank you guys for watching.